Hey, ducklings, welcome back. We are so excited that you've chosen to spend a few minutes with us. We're always happy to see you. We love being able to be a resource for you as you are navigating your early career growth. So, before we get started, Jose, how have you been? How's your week been?
Oh, it's the typical week. Mondays are just feels like a tsunami of stuff just coming in, and then you're just trying to dredge it through the week. So, how about you? How's your weekend? How was your weekend?
Weekend was quiet, which is always a gift. I will take that. And then I thought it was going to be a quiet and slow roll into Monday, but was really hit with like 4 or 5 meetings back to back. So that was a good chunk of my day. So getting getting through those meetings to actually do the work is always a balance. So
Yeah,
what are we seeing? I know that we've gotten some feedback, some comments. What are we seeing um, from
well,
your end?
we got a really good one recently. Somebody came up and sent me a note saying, how do you deal with like a change at work, whether it be like a new position or a new responsibility, and just being afraid on taking that next step.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one because I think you know whether it be early in your career or whether it be somewhere in the middle of your career, sometimes opportunities do present themselves that are so far from what your comfort zone is that it does give you some pause. And I think sometimes there's some fear and some anxiety around that. So maybe that's something that we talk about is really just kind of
Yeah, I
embracing
agree.
fear.
Yeah, I
So
love it. I think it's a good start to it, and it's a topic that a lot of people face, and they just don't know exactly how to just get over that initial hump of the fear, or how to process their way through it.
yeah, yeah. Let's do it. So the way that I see it sometimes is that it is daunting, right? Starting something new can be very daunting, whether it's a job or getting a promotion or learning something that's completely outside of your comfort zone. Sometimes we're lucky that we have an opportunity to move to a new city. But the way that I like to think about it, because I've experienced it, I know that you have as well, that instead of instead of running away from the fear, looking at it as potentially the start of a really new, exciting adventure, whether it be within the workplace or whether it be in a new city or something of the like. So, as some folks may know, that my day job, I do a lot with change, and so this is something that is dear to my heart in terms of talking about how change can be positive. And so sometimes I think really kind of confronting something that seems kind of fearful or anxious um, gets a little bit of a negative and a bad rap. And instead of looking at it that way, sometimes it's helpful to think about it in a positive way and something that is positive to look forward to.
Yeah, I love that the reframing of that to make it take a negative into a positive. When I think about it, a good way to overcome the fear of starting something new is to pause for a second, make a plan. Once you get organized, then it no longer feels daunting or like a mountain to climb because you took all the uncertainty away out of it. You could break it down to a bunch of small steps. I like to break it down to small wins actually, because then you can celebrate each small win, and then it just keeps getting the momentum going. Feels that the dopamine's kicking in, making you feel good because you're accomplishing each one of these steps. So,
So that's perfect. I love that. I mean, if we step back for a second, I know that, we're early into the new year, and sometimes the new year brings a lot of opportunities for change. Sometimes we have finished a performance cycle and we've gotten reviews, or sometimes, you're looking for a way to really kind of mix it up. And sometimes, unfortunately, with the end of a year, a performance cycle year, sometimes that brings reorganizations and layoffs and, slower hiring cycles if you're looking for something new. There's a lot of things that can breed anxiety and fear and uncertainty. And the way I think about it is that, it can be very paralyzing. Fear is definitely something that can give you pause. Um, Especially if you let it get the best of you. I know in a couple of videos back, we talked about not letting fear really kind of hold you back. And I think
Yeah.
for this particular conversation, whether it be looking for a new job or adjusting to a new team or, or really kind of embracing a potential new opportunity, one, it's really important to acknowledge that fear and anxiety around that is real. But it's what do we do with that to make sure that we figure out how to move forward? And to your point in terms of creating a plan around that, I think is an amazing step ahead, right?
Yeah, no, I like that. And the one thing I always said is like you got to give yourself a goalpost, kind of and then to so that you can overcome the fear. So you can focus on that end, and the journey becomes a lot easier. There was a quote that was given to me when I was in college, and I don't remember who said it, but I think the quote just it carries a lot of weight in my life. Is the minute you take your eyes off your goal, all you see are your obstacles. So I mean, just think about it. If you're a sprinter and you're jumping hurdles, and all you need to focus on is the finish line. And the minute you take your eyes off that finish line, you start seeing every hurdle in front of you, and that can just feel like the weight of the world on you and stop you from doing the next step that you want to do. So it's just these kind of things that you need to kind of do so that you can overcome that fear. So
Yeah. I do. I mean, I do also want us to look at the other side of fear. There are some things that are legitimately things that can cause pain or an overwhelming amount of stress. And so, looking at the correct way to balance that and to really kind of address certain things is absolutely something that we need to do for self care and staying healthy. Um, but sometimes when we are trying to figure out the path forward, um, there is an opportunity to recognize that a healthy dose of fear can actually be triggers for positive things to move forward. And whether we realize it at the time or not, some of the best things that have been invented, some of the best opportunities that have come in our lives or people that we know really um, were triggered by fear and triggered by some things that seem really stressful and overwhelming at the time. So things like innovation and creativity, problem solving, sometimes is really motivated by things that you do fear. And you know, a friend of mine used to say all the time, where she's just like, well, sometimes you have to release things into the universe, the negative things, in order to make room for the positive things. And so, if there is an opportunity to step back and really kind of think about it in that frame, hopefully that enables us to kind of release the anxiety and realize that fear is a precursor to things that are changing, and oftentimes it's for the better. So yeah, I think that that's something to kind of keep in mind, as we really kind of think about how do we balance that out, not only in our professional life, but sometimes it also bleeds into our personal life. And so there's a little bit of a chicken and egg that goes there, because obviously things stress you out at work, you're going to take that home, and vice versa. So being able to kind of pause and realize that, okay, there is an opportunity and an adventure ahead. We just have to be able to release kind of the paralysis around it, so that we can figure out the what's next, if you will. So
The funny thing is, as we're having this conversation, I've been thinking about this more and more, and I'm going, the word change in itself has a lot of negative connotations behind it, and it can feel heavy and scary, and nobody likes really change. So I think I'm gonna change the word change to challenge. I like that
Mm,
word better, right? Because a challenge just feels a much more inviting, like, oh, here's a challenge for you. Um, so let me do that on my end. So making the challenge into a process helps you break it down to make it easier to accomplish. You don't have to dread the beginning where fear can consume you. Think of completing each step of the process and checking the box. Like, good, got that one done, got that done, as you're accomplishing each step. Now celebrate each small victory. That way, it's much sweeter as when you're completing the major challenge, not change, challenge.
so I'm gonna start recruiting you to do my work because that that is definitely in the toolkit of a change practitioner. It's like, how do we reframe it so that it sounds, less daunting, and so challenge is actually, yeah, it's like challenge accepted. So instead of running away from change, it's like, let's accept the challenge. So I love it, Jose. Now you're gonna
You
put
can
me out of a
have
job.
it free of charge.
Okay. Okay. So don't put me out of a job. So
Wow. Um, I mean, jumping into my last point, I mean, like understanding that challenge is a part of life and that is one of the constraints that you'll always be there. Be comfortable with the challenge, expect it, and learn to embrace it. Once you become comfortable with the idea of challenge, then you will be ready for anything that come your way. You won't even be surprised by the challenge because you're going to be expecting it. So I think it's just one of these things that just it becomes your new normal.
yeah, I love that. I mean, I love being able to, to think about it in a way that there is a new normal that is ahead. I mean, all of us have lived through the pandemic, right? I mean, there was a whole lot of fear. There was a whole lot of change that happened. There were a whole lot of challenges that happened there. And, as everything started to normalize, if you will, and kind of, I would say right size, but really kind of balance out into whatever the new way of movement is. There is a new normal that is to be accepted. And so there, as we've all lived through the pandemic, I mean, there was a lot of fear there, um, but in that respect, there was change that was inevitable. There were challenges that were inevitable, and so really trying to figure out how to navigate that moving forward was really kind of the takeaway that we all learned. Um, and here we are, a few years later, right? So
We made it.
we did, we did. So well, I think we did a pretty good job, in reiterating not only, one that it's okay. It's okay to acknowledge that you're afraid or that you're fearful, that something is overwhelming. It's really kind of what you do with that, and then make room for all the positive that is ahead. I think is really the big theme of our discussion tonight. And we touched on it, like I said, in other videos. So go check out the other videos. A little shameless plug, um, but I think if I were to sum up really our big theme, it's it's natural. It's a part of life. It's a part of experience something, but it also should not necessarily anchor you down and prevent positive from happening, whether it be a job or a new move or an opportunity to learn something, or really just kind of closing the chapter on something that felt really negative, whether it be a toxic work environment or a job that just didn't suit your personal goals. There's fear and anxiety around that, but once you kind of embrace and put that to bed, then the world kind of opens up the next chapter. So,
So let's start wrapping it up. So,
right.
all right, changes or challenges and starting new things can be daunting, but don't run from it. Change or a challenge is a part of life. Fear and anxiety are real. So be prepared to do it so it doesn't overcome you. Make a plan and break it down into smaller, more manageable goals. Make sure to celebrate those smaller goals when you accomplish them. Become comfortable with change or a challenge. Expect it, plan for it, and how you're going to react to it so it doesn't become overwhelming and it doesn't catch you off guard. And finally, a healthy dose of fear can lead to positive changes because it becomes a motivator for movement, innovation, creativity, and finally transition. All right.
Thanks for that, Workonk. Those are really good. That I think really brings us to kind of the wrap up for the night, for this session. One, just don't let fear hold you back. Like letting fear hold you back, basically keeps the door closed for what's ahead. To remember, change can be positive. It's actually probably more positive than you realized. It does open the door for growth. It opens the door for creativity. It opens the door for things that you haven't discovered yet. And I think the last thing that I would say on this topic is, it's in part of embracing and part of acknowledging the fear, and the anxiety, and maybe this feeling of overwhelm. Or the overwhelming feelings is really being able to help you navigate, to your point, Workunk, in terms of how to create a plan to address those, but then also really figuring out how that impacts the balance of your personal and your professional life. So I think that that being said, it's really important that you find ways to always stay aware of what your needs are, and so that it all can help feed really kind of your next course of action. So, well, that seemed a little heavier than some of our other topics, but I think it's a necessary conversation. What do you think, Orkonk? I mean,
I agree with you 100%. These are part of those conversations that part of life.
yeah. So, well, on that note, what's more important over all of this is that you go and you live your life. So that being said, please join us on the next one. Always happy to spend some time with you. And so we always welcome your feedback and any topics that you want to talk about or you want to hear about. Just drop us a note on any of our socials or on our info page, info email rather, on our page. So until next time, hey, work mom.
And your work, Unc.
We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.